Welcome to the Bleep Bulimia podcast with guest Christine Trimpe, sugar addiction specialist. Hello, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Bulimia. And today I'm very pleased to have Christine Trimpe with me. And she is a Christian health and wellness coach, also a sugar addiction specialist. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Lorianne, for having me. I'm really delighted to be with you.
So I always ask, I would like to hear the journey that brought you to where you are today.
Okay, and I have to share this story. This is why I'm here sharing with your audiences. About 10 years ago, around this time, I found myself on the side of a mountain in Rocky Mountain National Park. I love mountains, and I was excited to be there on a trip with my husband to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. He picked a trail, a path to go up to Nymph Lake at the Bear Lake stop, and I looked at the trail marker, and it said a half a mile, and I thought, I could do a half a mile, right? A half a mile, this doesn't seem that far, right? So I started up that trail, and I was only able to get up halfway, and I ended up not being able to go a step further. I was gasping for air. My knees were aching. I was so out of wind that I told my husband, I'm like, I just sit down and I can't go any further. I encouraged him to go on without me. He said, Are you sure? I'm like, Yes, I really needed that time to myself, Lori. I sat on the stump on the side of that path like I had been used to doing for 30 years at that point, just sidelines of life. And I remember just having it was like the lowest point in my life, but now when I look, I can see it was actually my turning point. I remember saying a simple prayer to God, like, I just want to feel better. And even ask for massive weight loss at that or anything, because by that time I had been living in morbid obesity and was yo-yo dieting for 30 years. So I had given up to my at ever living at a healthy weight. But I see now that that moment in my life was like something settled on my heart. And I went back home to Michigan and I really began taking ownership of my health. And that's really where that turning point came from. I scheduled an appointment for some medical intervention that I had been putting off for so many years. I scheduled that sleep study that I didn't want because I didn't want to come home with a CPAP machine. But let me tell you, that was the very first choice. First best choice I made was to get that intervention because that CPAP machine helped me waking up refreshed. And really, that just changed my life. That just lit my health journey. And I'll be happy to share so much more about as we go about this conversation. But that was where it all started.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know what I love that you said is that I'm very emotional. It's a full moon. Um, felt that you were at the lowest and yet it was the start of moving to a higher. And we were just talking about that, a friend and I, where uh, when you hit the bottom, it's because there's something better that you're going to aspire
Mm,
to. And I really believe that throughout my life, it's always been that way. I mean, my life's been a little bit of a yo-yo
mhm.
up and downhill, but every time I've gotten to the
Yes,
bottom, something great's come from it. So,
right. Yeah, and I just kind of got chills when you were that too because I love the metaphor of in the mountain. I was like really physically in a most beautiful range at that time. I was born in the mountains. Like I feel like I have the desire to be in the mountains all the time. Unfortunately, I live in a city, so I'm not near mountains. I have to travel to them. But yeah, that like just the climbing the mountains and we reach peaks and valleys in life. But that moment on the side of that path heading to Nymph Lake was just like, I cannot thank God enough for where He particularly had me placed to take that step in my journey. And, so continuing to climb mountains and going down peaks and valleys, it's been 10 years this process. There's been a lot of freedom. There's been a lot of hardships as well too, but is we just continue showing up and not giving up. And that's how I hope to show up and inspire women to take that same first step.
and from what I've read, you've inspired many women. Tell us about that. You're working with your church and so on. So please tell us more about that.
Yeah, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting here with you on a podcast interview, I would not have believed a single word of what you're telling me. I was very comfortable in my corporate career at that time. I hired in accountancy, and at that point, by the time I left in 2021, the accountancy career and corporate America, I just like totally walked away from corporate America because God had called me into serving women, health coaching, and gave me a passion for a particular interest in sugar addiction because I could see how enslaved I was to the food environment I was living in. You know, I was eating high carbohydrate meals, and I wasn't really like, I call myself a sugar addict. It's a little bit confusing because I wasn't the type of person that would sit down, eat a row of Oreos or a whole gallon of ice cream. But I was the type of person that loved the savory sugars. Like as soon as you eat potato chips or French fries or like that, they break down into sugar as soon as they hit your digestive tract. So those were the types of sugars I was really addicted to. So when I say sugar, listeners say sugar, I mean the sugars, the flours, the highly refined carbohydrates, the ultra processed foods, things like that. And those are very addictive. All of those types of foods are addictive. But since I had this passion now for the freedom that I experienced, that I stepped in, Lorianne, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then I had so much joy for being bound in obesity for 30 years. I had so much joy in the breaking free that I had to tell everybody, like, come and see what can happen to you too. So yes, that's why I have this passion now. I have a Christian coaching community for women of faith. But I also do general audiences too, you know, just to share about health and sugar addiction. But I do have a particular passion for bringing it all together holistically because now I can easily see that God created us in body, mind, spirit, heart, soul. And in my 30 years of yo-yo dieting, I was fully focused on the physical aspect of weight loss, the calories, the eating less, moving more, things like that. And it wasn't brought it all together, like, and included the spiritual part and the, healing into my health journey that everything changed.
That's beautiful, and that is so true because I went through the same type of thing. I mean, I went through 30 years of bulimia, so that encompassed as
Mm,
well a certain amount of dieting when I was trying to quit. It was like stupid because I go from trying to stop to restricting, and none of that really worked very well. So
mhm.
yeah, this month it's actually 15 years since I've fully recovered, so I'm pretty excited
Oh,
about that.
amazing.
So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
we share a celebration here, definitely. Uh, but yeah, so a lot of people, I was thinking when you're saying potato chips and French fries, a lot of people don't equate that to sugars. They just say, oh,
Hmm.
salty foods. Well, no, just salty foods can also, like you said, they break down into sugar.
Yeah,
So that's very
right.
interesting for the audience to hear. Now, this is also because my audience is they're bulimic. I like that you said that, it's a spiritual approach, and this is what I try and offer here are different approaches to it's not necessarily about weight loss because some of the people who are bulimic, they don't need to lose weight, but it's their view of how they view food is a big
Right.
thing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Healing that relationship with food for sure. I mean, ultimately, what I encourage my coaching clients, and when they get there and they start realizing that this is possible, is of food as fuel. And when I was coping with food and soothing myself and comforting myself with food, fueling my body was the last thing I was thinking of, But then, of course, when I would go through the dietary programs that I committed to, like, I can't tell you how many times I signed up for Weight Watchers. At one time, I even went through a hospital-based program and I drank nothing but liquid protein shakes for 10 months, Lorianne.
Oh,
Uh, Want those 10, yeah, I want those 10 months back of my life. It was terrible. I would obviously don't recommend it. But as soon as they introduced foods to me that were higher in carbohydrates, like even whole wheat bread and whole wheat pasta, when I started eating and reintroducing those types of foods, I started gaining the weight again. And for me, the reason being was because I am insulin sensitive. So if you've heard the term insulin resistance, that's me. And women like me who tend to carry the obesity and to care, struggle with overeating because of this lack of being able to shut off that switch when we're eating those hyperpalatable foods. It's just like feeding the insulin resistance. And the insulin resistance is what leads to all the chronic disease like type 2 diabetes. I had pre-diabetes, I had fatty liver disease, I had a plethora of other health issues that were piling up, but it was all the root of it was the insulin resistance physiologically in my body. And then I really truly believe the other root of it emotionally and spiritually for me was the cravings. Like sugar is really highly, and it makes you crave more. You want more. So it's really hard to stop eating it when you get in that situation. Really getting to the root of why am I craving this? And then choosing whole food, finally, eventually getting to the point where I'm choosing whole foods they don't need an ingredient list because they're made from God's creation, right? So I'm eating foods that are nourishing my body well, and that actually brought me into what I describe as food serenity. Like the cravings quieted, and I'm no longer fixated and thinking about food. And I was able to begin the process of overcoming that sugar addiction and the destructive eating patterns that were leading to all the chronic health issues I was dealing with.
Wow, that's amazing. And I like that too. Yes, definitely when you stop focusing on food, when it doesn't become that go-to, and we were saying
Mhm.
that, and you said it as well, it's freedom. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely freedom. And it's something that I didn't experience it's interesting that we both battled for 30 years, right? I call that those 30 years of my desert wandering, just trying to find my way out, for so many years. It's not that it wasn't for lack of trying. I certainly tried many dietary programs over the years, but it was not great information for someone like me and for anybody else that might be listening that has been told they have insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, telling me to eat less, move more, and eat sugar in moderation. That was like terrible advice for me because, again, when you're addicted to sugar, it's really hard to shut off that brain switch. And addiction is a brain disease. So you have to when you when you become aware of all of this, it starts to make so much more sense. Why was I not able to stop eating these junky foods? Why did I feel so out of control all the time? Why was I constantly thinking about food? It's because my brain was reminding me, like, hey, I want this really great reward. It liked those dopamine hits. So, yeah, it is definitely a process. Like addiction is a beast to battle, but we definitely can overcome it.
definitely. And there's another thing too. It's interesting because we always use diet, and diet has become a bad word. Yet diet in
Mhm,
itself, the definition of it is what you
mhm,
eat. So, um,
mhm.
my diet is made up of, let's say salads,
Yeah,
fruits, yogurt, and now and again
right.
steak, but that's my diet. But they turned
Yes.
diet into a bad word. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, diets, you
Yeah.
think about it, it's restriction. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, or diet does not have to be that kind of restriction that most of these diets are putting you through.
Yeah, right. When we think of the word diet, we imagine like this white knuckling and just trying to restrict our way through something. And if we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up. We're bad, and then we have to start again on Monday. It's the whole, I call it the dietary dogma. And I do agree with you. Like the word diet really shouldn't be a four-word. It should be like, this is my diet, this is what I eat. And as a woman of faith who coaches faith-based women, I would love to refer to myself as a diet disciple, like, because I love to disciple women through this. But again, I don't want to use that word diet. Like, I don't want them to take any negative connotation away from it. But truly, when we fix our diet and let food heal bodies, it can heal us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and yeah. And then again, to use that word freedom and also greater joy in living to that too.
And that leads us to the next thing. You wrote a book, Sugar Freed, and you want to
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about that. That's exciting.
Yeah, my book is titled Sugar Weed, and the subtitle is Stop Losing the Weight Loss Battle, Start Gaining the Victory. And it really is it's a Christian book. It does have a lot of my story woven into it. Also had the real privilege of sharing 6 stories of other women that have overcome their weight loss battle through, their examining their relationship with sugar and foods and high in carbohydrates that have been addictive to them and kept them bound chain. And then it just kind of guiding the reader through all of the aspects, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual. And also, the first section is guiding the reader into, well, why did we get here in the first place? Like, that is really something important we have to examine because I could beat myself up all day long over all my failed dietary attempts. But when I really sat and examine, well, why do I want to get healthy? And why am I first place? I guide the reader through those 2 whys, and it just starts to make a lot of sense. Like, and it keeps us grounded and how to lay that foundation for all the momentum that we're going to build as we begin making healthier choices with food and letting food be our man and letting it heal our bodies.
Yeah. A friend rather than a foe, as I say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, one of the women I write about in one of my chapters, a woman that I coached, her story, I have them share stories in their own words, and she was super morbidly obese, and she no longer is, which is amazing thing. But she wrote in there, like, food was my best friend, and a friend that to you, right? And it made her wind up being over 400 pounds. And so she was able to identify that food is not her best friend. That's when everything changed for her.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, like I was saying in one of my other podcasts, like I moved around a lot. And the one thing that I could take with me was my food, right? That's my friends
Mm,
were left behind so many times. So, yes, it became
yes.
it's familiar to me. My bulimia was, at me, it was my bulimia, but it, of course, was food. Um, but it
Mhm.
was when I realized, I'm not moving anymore. I'm stable. There's nobody telling me what to do anymore. I'm free. So now I need to free myself from this. And
Mhm.
it was, yeah, that was my pinnacle. It's like, um,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, and my pinnacle was overcoming the addiction, which he started heal. I like started having this awakening because when I got that CPAP machine, I started picking up my Bible for the first time in my life every single day, and that is start my day every day now. I never did that up until this health journey. Even though I was raised in the church, I was raised in a Christian home. I had, 6 copies of Bible laying around my house. So that's really the what really motivated me to keep showing up every day and surrendering this. It's a huge, like, we have to surrender this every single day. And I'm sure you realize that when you wake up in the morning, you have to like set your heart, set your mind, okay, what's today going to look like? And it does get easier when you are not addicted to the food. Like that, again, that food serenity, it cools it down, it makes the days easier, but that doesn't mean that we're never be up against temptations or stressful situations where our former habits or patterns would drive us to comfort with food. So it is, and we have to eat, right? The one thing that we have to battle is food. So we have to be realistic about it. Like, okay, I have to eat. So what's this gonna look like? And just be prepared for it. So, and then being able to show up every single day and do that for your health. And then you get to, I always say, when we feel better, we serve better. So when you're feeling better, we're serving better. And then that just like, it's just that freedom again. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful that God, finally led my path. Well, I should say, I finally followed what I was supposed to be doing for my health all those years.
that's perfect. But timing is everything. You never know how long it's going to be that you're in
Right.
something comes. So,
Ex
um, and
yeah,
it's lovely. And
exactly.
I felt the biggest thing. So I really, for me, because bulimia is a bit different, um
Mhm.
I sit there and go, why did I ever do that? Like, and I know why,
Mhm.
but why for so long? Like
Mhm.
what, you know, um couldn't imagine going back to it. Seriously, could not imagine going back to it. But the one thing that I did have to learn, and I'm sure you did too, is because you're eating and you eat emotions, is to deal with your emotions without going to the food. Um, and that was my being acutely aware of what I was feeling at any one time and how to deal with it because
Mhm.
I didn't have my bulimia anymore. So like it was like, oh my, it's like I have to
Right.
fix it on my own. Like, yeah. And so
Yeah.
that took a few months for me um, to accept the fact that yes, you're going to have to deal with this. You're not food is not helping you with it. You have to deal with it. And once you do
Right.
that too, there's a different kind of freedom of saying, "Hey, yeah, okay, I get it. I get why this is happening.
Mhm.
I buried it, I numbed it, and now it's, face it."
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Face it for sure. And ooh, like a huge majority of the work that we do in my coaching program with sugar-free method is, and I warn my clients too when they first come, I'm like, the emotional part is going to be the heaviest part. Yeah, you really have to like lean in, push in. And I love sharing about that because you face it. Like you do have to face it, which is something I did not want to do for 30 years, right? And now that I do, it's really a privilege to help women face these emotions when it comes to food. And like when I was numbing my food, I had no awareness of how to identify a feeling. Like what exactly is this, But then when you're showing up every day centering food choices to better health, then all that awareness just like it becomes really real. And we use the feelings wheel a lot in my community. I don't know if you're familiar with the feelings wheel, but it's a color wheel and it's just got all these words that identify feelings. And you can look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's how I'm today, and it begins to make a lot of sense. And so then we can face it. I love that you said that. I don't even use that word in my community, but I'm going to start using that. We have to face this, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great journey. I am blessed. I thank God every day for
Yes.
um and yeah, he's very strong presence in my life. So I get that. But
Hmm.
yeah, and I always say if it wasn't for him and my faith, I think faith has a very big part of it. I mean, whether you are Christian or anything else, faith, I believe, is very important in a lot of ways in healing and feeling and the soul. Um,
Hmm.
Knowing yourself and knowing that there is this spiritual world out there that is there to protect you and listen to you and be there for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. A little mustard seed of faith around my neck every day because I realized when I was sitting on the side of that mountain and feeling rather hopeless that there was a little tiny seed of faith in me. It really spurred that hope. Like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about this and I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to figure this out. And praise God, he guided see his hand over that journey because I didn't go home and sugar immediately that day. I did the medical intervention, started feeling better, and then I made the decision to quit my flavor creamer in my coffee. And then I stopped eating any treats that were in the office. I worked in an office with a bunch of women who loved to go get the day-old pastries from the grocery store down the plaza, right? And so I started swearing off, and it was just like a step-by-step progression. And that really solidified the freedom journey. It helped me build those skills and build the resolve and build the momentum to keep on going.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you
Mm.
so much for being a guest and sharing your story. It's just a lovely one. I'm also interested, where can people, like, I don't know if you do external or whatever, but if you do, where they can contact you, where they can find your book, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a website. Are you going to put stuff in the show notes too?
Yes.
Yeah. My website name, because it's my name's a little bit different to spell, but it's christinetrimpe.com. And on my website, you can get a free chapter, a sample chapter of my book. in that chapter of craving all the wrong things. Again, I'm really big into craving and identifying our cravings. So you can get a free chapter on my website, can be connected that way, and then you can find out all the ways I can support you. And I love, Lori, and that you are like, you've been through this journey and you are showing up to serve people and help people too with your story. It's a cool thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.